It's a rare, warm-time community gathering religious ceremonies and traditions are celebrated to the fullest. It provides valuable social opportunities for residents. The children were playing football in the narrow alleyway, playing marbles or other simple game. Sleep quality is generally poor. The sound insulation effect of the house is almost zero. All kinds of noise continued into the night. Crying and arguing, the roar of the machine is mixed together. The summer heat is unbearable. Households without electric fans can only tolerate sweltering heat in winter because the house insulation effect is extremely poor and feel cold. Humid in a small room of 10 square meters usually sleeps 6 to 8 people. There was no personal space. The working conditions in Dharavi are extremely dangerous. Workers face challenges every day, a variety of serious security threats and health risks. Lack of basic safety precautions, effective implementation of labor protection regulations make this dangerous situation even worse. Leather home industry, it is widely regarded as one of the most dangerous industries. About 30,000 workers processing animal leather in a cramped and stuffy workshop, needing with a variety of highly toxic chemicals dyed and steamed. Pairs harmful substances such as formaldehyde. Long-term immersion in the work environment. Long-term exposure can lead to respiratory diseases, severe skin disease, liver and kidney damage. Many workers are in their 40s. Symptoms of serious occupational diseases. The recycling industry is equally dangerous. Workers sort all kinds of rubbish with their hands, including sharp shards of glass, rusty metal sheet, toxic plastics, and unknown chemical waste. Hand injuries are extremely common. Complications such as tetanus infection occur frequently. Equipment used, most of them are old products from decades ago. Lack of basic maintenance, frequent malfunctions, and injuries occur. The workspace is extremely crowded. All kinds of fiber dust are in the air. Workers work in the same position for long periods of time. Common cervical spondylosis, musculoskeletal diseases such as lumbar disc herniation. The hygiene situation in food processing workshops is worrying. These small workshops, they usually don't have any health permits. The working environment does not meet food safety standards at all. The workers have no health certificates. The quality of the raw materials used cannot be guaranteed during processing. Various bacteria may be introduced, viruses and chemical contaminants. Workers work in this environment. Not only their own health is at risk, it may also pose a risk to food safety due to outdated equipment, dangerous and critical lack of security training. All kinds of work-related accidents occur almost every day. Knife cut, chemical burns, high temperature, scald, fall from high altitude, machine pinch, and other accidents are common. The more serious problem is the vast majority of workers do not have any form of work-related injury insurance. Medical expenses need to be borne by yourself in the event of a serious work-related injury resulting in disability. Workers would immediately lose their source of income. The whole family is in a desperate situation. In order to maintain the most basic survival needs, workers usually work 12 to 16 hours a day, working 7 days a week, almost no breaks. Long-term overwork leads to severe overdraft of the body. Immunity plummets, more susceptible to various diseases. Work in a state of extreme fatigue. It also greatly increases the probability of various accidents. Extreme lack of educational resources is one of the toughest challenges Dharavi faces. Although the Indian Constitution clearly states that implement free and compulsory education, but the reality of Dharavi's education, we are very far from that goal. There are only about 30 government schools in the whole of Dharavi to serve tens of thousands of school-aged children. The average school has to bear the educational mission for thousands of students. Existing schools are often overcrowded. A classroom is often packed with 60 to 80 students according to international standards. A class should not have more than 25 students. The number of classrooms is seriously insufficient. The student-teacher ratio is an astounding 1 hour 80 minutes. Far more than the proposed 1.25 scale. Many schools lack the most basic teaching supplies like blackboard, chalk, desks, chairs, textbooks. Even basic stationery. Students often sit on the floor in class, barely listening to a class in dim light. Poor ventilation in the classroom, especially during the hot summer months. The heat makes normal teaching impossible. With even though the leaky roof turned the classroom into a pond of water, they don't work. Teachers sent by the government to Ravi, they often lack motivation, often absent for no reason due to the harsh working environment. Low pay, low social status. It's hard to attract the best educators. Many teachers themselves have a limited level of education. Lack of professional knowledge, it simply doesn't provide high-quality teaching. Some teachers, you can't even grasp the basics of teaching that it's very simple. According to statistics, only about 50% of children complete primary education, less than 30% finish middle school. Very few finish high school. The main reasons for the high dropout rate: family financial difficulties. Many children are forced to leave school prematurely, helping families make ends meet or directly enter the workforce. What is the dropout rate among girls? They tend to reach puberty. They are required to undertake heavy housework or arrange for early marriage. Some families with better economic conditions choose to send children sent to private schools with relatively low fees. These private schools have simple facilities, actually limited, but it usually provides relatively good teaching quality and more attention. However, even the cheapest private schools' monthly tuition fee for most Dalab families still a heavy economic burden. Many families want to send their child to school. They had to drop other kids out of school and work. Non-governmental organizations are trying to fill the education gap, launched various educational assistance projects in Dharavi. These offer after-school tutoring, cram school class skills training, and adult literacy courses. Some international charitable organizations. A scholarship program has also been established, sponsor outstanding underprivileged students to continue their education, although these projects are limited in scale, lack of coverage. But to improve the local education situation played an important complementary role. Language barrier, it is also an important factor affecting the quality of education. Dharavi residents speak a dozen different languages and school teaching, mainly speaking Maladi and English. Many children from other states, difficulty in language understanding it affected learning. Health threats facing Dharavi residents: shocking, can be described. The incidence of various diseases much higher than the rest of Mumbai, even higher than the national average. In India, harsh living environment, severe malnutrition, there is an extreme lack of medical care. Together, they have created this distressing situation. Infectious diseases are the #1 killer that threatens the health of residents due to the severe lack of clean water and basic sanitation. Cholera disease, waterborne diseases such as typhoid and hepatitis A frequent outbreaks in Dharavi, especially during the rainy season. Dengue, rose muscular foramen gnawing, enzyme-borne diseases such as subheat are also very common. According to statistics, the incidence of infectious diseases in Dharavi, that's 15 to 20 times the size of Mumbai. Respiratory diseases are extremely common in Dharavi. Serious air pollution comes from many sources: industrial waste, gas emissions, toxic fumes from the incineration of large amounts of waste, exhaust from dense traffic, and soot from indoor combustion of inferior fuels. Residents for a long time living in this highly polluted environment cause asthma, chronic bronchitis. We had tremendous rates of pneumonia and tuberculosis. Children and the elderly are particularly vulnerable. Many children, he was born with a severe respiratory disease. According to the survey, the malnutrition rate among Dharavi children is as high as 60%. This is well above the national average of 38% in India. Severe malnutrition leads to developmental displacement in children. Underweight intellectual development is affected. This will have a significant impact on the future development of the entire community. Cause long-term adverse effects: malnutrition in pregnant women, it increases the infant mortality rate, the risk of birth defects, and low birth weight. But Dharavi is not a word for despair. Deep in the narrow channel, countless people still live tenaciously, breeding hope every morning. When the first rays of sunlight shine through the cracks in the tin roof, people go to the workshop again, into the market, make a living with your hands. Also protect the family. In recent years, efforts by governments and non-governmental organizations starting to make small but real changes here. New water supply projects are being planned. Community health centers are gradually being established. Transaction assistance program is available on a small scale, although these improvements are, in comparison to the huge demand, still insignificant, like stars shining in the dark. A reminder that the future is not entirely hopeless. Dharavi is still the most secretive in the world, one of the poor pools of the set. Poverty, disease, and pollution are still missed here, but in this seemingly sunless land, countless people still hold out hope. They believe one day kids don't have to play in the mud anymore. Drinking water is no longer a luxury. The sun shines into every corner. The story of Dharavi is the scar of a city. It is the protagonist of human willfulness. He reminded the world that poverty is no excuse for indifference. It is a reality that must be faced together. As long as someone is still trying, this shadow will one day be dispelled by the light. For while Mumbai's wealthy districts still slumber, Dharavi is already wide awake. Over 1 million people rise from their cramped tin rooms lined up to use public toilets. One toilet serves 1,440 people, meaning the average person only uses it for 1 minute. This is the largest daily wake-up in any slum on Earth. Daily beginnings in the slums on this land of only 2.1 square kilometers with a staggering population density, 500,000 per square kilometer. That's 4 times more crowded than Manhattan. Homes are stacked like blocks in a giant puzzle. Airtight in many corners, the sun never shines for the residents here, so $2 is one day's income. And this money, it is necessary to maintain the survival of a family of 6 to 8 people. Dharavi is known as the largest civilian bank in Asia. Over 1 million people have gathered in this small area of land. That's the population of a medium-sized city. All crowded in New York's Central Park within the size of the area. From the sky, waxing is like a sea of reinforced concrete, no end in sight. The tin roof reflects the glare of the sun. Narrow shipping lanes are densely packed, like garages. The narrow places difficult for both people to pass side by side. Labyrinthine paths, it's easy for outsiders to get lost. It's populated and robotically complex. Immigrants from various Indian states gather again. Marathi Tamils are spoken differently by Indians. They believe in different religions. Hindu, Muslims, and Christians coexist in harmony. It's a multicultural micro-society. Surprisingly, this slum is more than just a residential area. It's an entire economic ecosystem. Annual output value exceeds $1 billion, equivalent to the total domestic product of many African countries. Value from scrap recycling to finished product manufacturing, from raw material processing to product sales, all links can be found in Dharavi. To many places in Dharavi, the sun doesn't really shine. High-density buildings block the sky. Narrow shipping lanes are dark and damp. Buildings are closely connected. The houses on the upper floors completely block the light on the lower floors, formed a corner that will never see the light of day. The residents on the ground floor see almost no sunlight, and those on the top heated up. And rainwater leakage. The living conditions of the residents in the middle layer are relatively good, but also to face the problem of serious lack of lighting. Chronic lack of sunlight, serious impact on residents' health. Vitamin D deficiency is extremely common, especially children and women. Lack of sun exposure also contributes to depression. The incidence rate remains high. The mental health of many residents has been seriously affected. Dharavi's itinerary dating back to the late 19th century. At that time, the famous British government designate this swamp as an industrial area. With the boom in Mumbai port trade, a large number of farmers from all over India, they flock to the city in search of job opportunities. The high rent forces them to live in this area on the forgotten land. They built these humble dwellings. 1880s Mumbai needs a lot of labor for loading and unloading textile and leather processing jobs from Maharashtra. Immigrants from Tamil Nadu and North India began to settle in this Dharavi. They are based on occupation and region of origin. They form different gathering zones. Tamils are mainly engaged in leather processing. Marathi people run nadi productions. Rajasthan people specialize in recycling. After India gained independence in 1947, Dharavi's population grew dramatically. The government lacks effective urban planning, unable to account for the massive influx of people into Mumbai, provide adequate housing. Dharavi became a safe haven for these new immigrants. Despite the appalling living conditions from the 1960s to the 1980s were a golden age for Dharavi's rapid expansion. The residents used every available space to build their shelters, including abandoned factories, railway lines, and garbage dumps. The government has tried many times to clean up the slums, but after each forced demolition, residents will rebuild their homes quickly. Shows a tenacious will to survive. For most residents of Dharavi, 150 rupees, about $2. That's a day's total income. This Weibo income, the survival needs of the entire family, must be maintained. In a typical Dharavi family, usually there are 6 to 8 members, far below international extreme poverty insurance standards. Saving is an almost impossible luxury. Weibo's income warning: to maintain basic survival, no spare funds for saving or investing, so that residents are unable to respond to any emergencies such as illness, unemployment, or natural disasters. Any additional expenses could cost the entire family, falling deeper into poverty. To increase Weibo's revenue, many children are forced to leave school prematurely, participate in work. They are in the factory. Shrinking visits or the streets are always simple labor. Receive extremely Low compensation water scarcity is a resident of Dharavi. The daunting challenges we must face every day. The entire slum's water supply system is severely inadequate. Most residents lack of access to a reliable water supply. The daily water supply time of the machine is limited and not fixed. Public water provided by the government, usually only from 6 to 8 o'clock in the morning, and served from 6 to 8 p.m. only lasts 2 hours at a time. Residents must take advantage of this short period of time. Complete all water requirements. Drink and wash, laundry, cleaning, and storage. Queuing up for water becomes Dharavi one of the most common sights. In front of every public faucet there were huge queues. People were waiting anxiously in containers. Women and children are responsible for most of the flooding. They often have to wait 3 to 4 hours to get enough water for a day. To enhance limited water sources, conflicts between neighbors occur from time to time. Water resources are severely inadequate. Direct impact on personal hygiene. Many residents are unable to bathe every day. The frequency of laundry is also very low. Some families can only do laundry once a week. This not only seriously affects personal image and social interaction, and here's the thing, greatly increases the risk of the spread of various diseases. The living environment in Dharavi, it can be said that the bottom line of human living conditions. Most families squeezed in an area of less than 10 square meters in a small space. A family of 6 to 8 people lives in such a space. Sleep and cook. The vast majority of houses use waste iron hooves, worn plastic sheeting, temporary construction of bamboo, and poor quality bricks. These materials, it doesn't provide basic housing protections. The summer heat is unbearable. The indoor temperature is 5 to 10 degrees Celsius higher than the outdoor temperature. The rainy season caused the roof to leak severely. Residents often live in stagnant water. There are only thin partitions between the houses, no soundproofing at all. Neighbor conversation, quarrel, cry. The cooking sound is clear and audible. Grandparents often live in a small room. 3 generations of parents and children have no personal space. 99% of houses do not have a separate toilet, bathroom, or standard kitchen. Residents must use public facilities located at a distance, but it's nowhere near enough. Sanitation conditions are also extremely poor. The power supply is extremely unstable. Frequent power outages. Many residents rely on dangerous, illegal power lines disorganized above the narrow waterway. Frequent electric shock and fire accidents. Dharavi generates around 400 tons of various waste every day, but the regular garbage collection system, only 30% of it can be processed. The remaining 70% of the trash is piled up around the house. Narrow alleyway. There was a pungent stench in the middle. Smelly gutter. They breed mosquitoes and flies, and rats become the perfect door and window for the spread of various diseases. Most areas do not have any regular drainage facilities. Domestic sewage, industrial wastewater, is discharged directly into the street and around the residential area. When the rainy season comes, water and sewage mix, forming fetid artificial lakes in residential areas. Houses of many residents, often soaked in this mixed sewage, cause property damage and serious health threats. A day in the life of Dharavi Pudong residents. From the darkness of 4 a.m. due to the severe shortage of public toilets, people had to get up early and wait in line. A single public toilet serves 1,440 residents, 72 times the recommended standard of the United Nations. Lining up to go to the toilet often becomes a daily occurrence for everyone. The first serious challenge that must be faced. Most residents start work at 6 a.m. It goes on until 8 p.m. or later. Working 12 to 16 hours a day is the norm. The noon break is short. Many people work in cramped workplaces. Simply eat some dry food. Keep working. No concept of a weekend. Working 7 days a week is a common phenomenon. Dinner is the most important thing of the day. It is also the richest meal. Families rarely get together to share. Simple rice, vegetable curry, and bean soup. Meat rarely appears on the table of the average family. Only during major festivals or special celebrations will buy some cheap chicken or lamb. Recreational activities are relatively monotonous. Watch a program on a small black and white TV. The main form of entertainment. The whole family is sitting around the TV.